Hello everyone, Jurassic Fighter here. Today I'm going to showcase a very simple yet powerful blaze farm that I designed that can get anywhere from 30 to nearly 60,000 blaze rods per hour. Before we get into the actual design of the farm, I wanted to discuss a few important key concepts surrounding the farm. So first of all, why would you want to farm blazes? Well, blazes drop blaze rods which can be used in brewing and can be used as high-yield fuel sources in furnaces. Now that second reason is the main use of this farm in my opinion. Basic fortress farms produce over 9 to 10,000 blaze rods per hour, which is more than enough for brewing needs. And in general, blaze rods aren't the best in terms of fuel sources because while other fuels such as charcoal and kelp also require player interaction, because you have to plant trees and get charcoal from the logs, and you also have to manually craft the kelp, they can be built anywhere, whereas this farm needs to be built specifically in another fortress. Despite that, blaze rods are still a high efficiency fuel source. One blaze rod can cook 12 items, and this farm can produce a decent amount of XP as well, especially when it's at its maximum potential. Okay, so let's get into the actual farm. So this farm is a portal-based blaze farm, where the pistons at the floor level trigger from, they're hooked up to a clock, and they trigger every so often, and that pushes the blazes into the portal, and this is by far one of the fastest ways of clearing them from the mob cap, especially in this case. The main limiting factor of this farm is the amount of spawn spaces, because portals can only link up to 128 blocks in the opposite dimension, so 128 blocks in the overworld is the maximum linkage to the portals, so we can only do a 32 by 32 area in the nether, or 2 by 2 chunks, these are actually chunk aligned, of portals and spawn spaces, because they can only, that's like the maximum amount they could link up in the overworld if you put a portal, if you link a portal in the middle of the farm. Hypothetically, you could double or triple this farm and get more spawn spaces like that, but in the overworld side, you'd have to set up bot accounts at each single portal, because and that's not very practical, and it's also not practical to transport all the blazes to a single location. It's too hard, and it's really just not, again, practical. But just based on the 32 by 32 space that we have, I think this is probably one of the most densest layouts and concepts you could probably do when it comes to this kind of concept where you push blazes into the portal. So if our main problem is that we're not getting enough mobs, there is a few things that we can do to increase the spawn rates within the farm. First one is pack spawning. Now in the final design, and the design that I'm going to link in the description, I extended these nether brick balconies here that extend, and there's another brick under this carpet, 5 blocks out, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's in the final design, and that just basically brings pack spawn attempts from the outside of the fortress inside, and increases the amount of blazes we get. In this test world that I have, I've been testing the farm, and I did extend it from 8 to 10 blocks out, but that didn't really increase the rates by much, if at all, so that I wasn't included in the final design. So as of right now, with the pack spawning balconies, the farm would produce 15,000 blazes per hour, or 30,000 blaze rods per hour with looting. But there's one more thing we could do to increase the amount of blazes that spawn inside this farm, and that is to break the bedrock ceiling above the farm. So the way the spawning algorithm works is it picks a random X and Z coordinate, and then scans the column and searches for the highest block in that column. It doesn't matter if it's a transparent block or an opaque block, it'll see the highest block, and that determines the chance of a successful spawn. So with the bedrock ceiling above the farm, since that is theoretically the highest block you have above the farm, that brings the successful spawn rate to 1 over 128. If you remove it, it drastically increases the amount of blazes that spawn. So with the bedrock ceiling removed, you can get 52 to 60,000 blaze rods per hour. And the reason I say that is because it's all based on the clock timings here. So with 6 items, you can, with the bedrock ceiling removed, with 6 items in the Etho Hopper clock, you can get 52,000 items per hour. theoretically, you could get 60,000 drops per hour, but I did not actually test that because it's very laggy with tick warp if your MSPT is high, which this farm definitely has some lag problems. It's not good for your client. It's not that great for the MSPT either, but it doesn't kill the server, but it's not amazing either. This is right now it's running at 23 MSPT or something. Yeah, theoretically, if you increase the clock and the speed of the clock, you could get 60,000 items per hour. But I wasn't able to do that just because it was so laggy and it took forever to test. So, you can definitely get 52,000 drops per hour, and if you put 15 items in this hopper clock with the bedrock ceiling still there, you can get 30,000 blaze rods per hour from this farm, and that's actually equivalent to 360,000 smelting operations per hour, or 360,000 items per hour in a regular furnace. I think in a smoker and blast furnace it's double that. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's actually pretty good, and that's definitely going to supply your field needs, especially if you're in single player. But if you're on a multiplayer server, you might want to consider removing the bedrock ceiling in case you need even more blaze rods. Just a quick note, with the bedrock ceiling removed, the farm produces 250 plus, or 250,000 plus XP per hour. I say plus because it goes above that, and that's just like a rounding number. But that's way more than the player can absorb. A player can absorb 180,000 XP per hour. And so you want to have a cactus or some other way of destroying excess experience, because you don't want to crash your server from immense lag. Another disclaimer, I guess you could say, is that in 1.15 and 1.16, just basically the newer versions past 1.12, it is pretty difficult and time-consuming to break the bedrock, break bedrock in general. I'm just talking about the ceiling here, but you have to use headless pistons, which takes a very long time, and if you're playing by yourself, it will definitely take a very, very long time. If you're playing on a server, it might not be so bad, but just a fair warning, if you want the maximum amount of rates, you will have to break the bedrock ceiling, which is very time-consuming. So is this the most efficient design? Not really. See, you can do something like this, where you have to use an insane amount of update suppression to get the nether portal block under the portal and get the spruce trapdoor under the portal and get the obsidian and all the other portals like away, and basically you could do something like this. You could stack this type of thing, 32 by 32, and that would actually be way more efficient because you'd have much more spawning spaces that way, and that would definitely help with your farm rates. But the problem with this, or the main reason I personally wouldn't do something like this, is first of all, an insane amount of effort has to go into this, just making this full scale, but also, in my opinion, I think that Mojang is most likely going to fix mobs being able to spawn in portals. Blazes can actually, if I didn't mention this before, blazes can spawn in light level 11 or lower. Portals emit that kind of light level, so they can spawn in portals. But I think that Mojang is most likely going to remove the ability of mobs being able to spawn in portals, just because they have shown no love to the magma block, the wither rose, or the berry bush. All three of those things are something that mobs technically should be able to spawn in, but can't because they get damaged by it. And although portals don't necessarily damage the mobs, they do remove them from the mob cap. So I think that this might be Mojang's next target when it comes to those kinds of blocks. A couple more things I'd like to go over. So as of 1.16 pre-release 2, there is a quote-unquote bug where nether fortress mobs, such as blazes, wither skeletons, and pigmen, and magma cubes, of course, they do not spawn in the outer bounding box. So I'm just going to use carpet mod to demonstrate. This small box right here is what's known as an inner fortress bounding box. It basically, any fortress mob can spawn on any block within this, or any spawnable block normally in this bounding box. And this giant outer box that surrounds the entire fortress is what's known as the outer bounding box. And normally mobs or fortress mobs can spawn in this outer bounding box as long as they're on nether brick, which is what this farm relies on. because you need a lot of spawning spaces for this type of thing, and just using the inner ones like intersections and crossroads, that kind of stuff, that will not provide enough spawn spaces for this kind of farm. And so this relies on the outer bounding box being available and mobs being able to spawn in it. And there is a bug in 1.16, hopefully it's a bug, hopefully it's actually going to get fixed, where fortress mobs will not spawn in this outer bounding box, which breaks this farm, essentially. You can't build this kind of farm to this effect in the inner bounding boxes, really. And that's a shame, so I just wanted to let you guys know. I will post the bug report in the description, so please go upvote that. And I will put a note in the description if this has been fixed. Hopefully it will be, but you never know with Mojang. Also, after sharing this farm with members of EndTech, which is why I actually designed this farm, we wanted this on EndTech, but that's besides the point. I did actually find out that CCS Covenant, a Chinese technical Minecraft YouTuber, made a farm very, very similar to this, and that was pretty cool, because he is a super, super smart guy. But yeah, I wanted to mention that he also made a farm very similar to this, and so I'm by no means saying that I'm the first person to have done this. I'm pretty sure he made this farm before me, and just wanted to mention that. So I'll leave his YouTube in the description below. Please check him out. He's awesome. He has some really cool stuff. I don't think he posts much on YouTube. I think he does more stuff on Bilibili, I guess the Chinese equivalent of YouTube, which is unfortunate, but still, definitely go check him out in the description. So I wanted to circle back to the overworld side real quick and point out a few things about the killing system. This right here is pretty basic and ghetto. I don't recommend building something like this, I guess. I mean, it's alright. The hoppers here, I just have basic hopper counters, nothing special. Obviously, you could do a hopper minecart distribution system into droppers and set up a storage system in the overworld. That's recommended, obviously. Another thing I wanted to recommend is right here. I didn't really put that much effort into making this a particularly efficient system. Basically, blazes just spawn in the portal and stay in the frame until enough of them pile up, and then they start pushing other blazes out. And that's not a very good system to do, but I recommend, and I'll leave a link on how to do it. But essentially, Vktec showed a method of getting a horse into the frame of the portal. It only works for a 2x2 portal, or a 2-wide portal. And essentially what that does is that the hitbox of the portal shoves mobs out when they spawn, or they come through the portal. It shoves them out of the frame, and it's not necessary, but it is a lot more lag friendly. It's recommended, and it just looks really cool. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I will leave a Litematic for the farm in the description. And I don't think a world download is necessary, but if you'd like me to make one, let me know. And if you have any other questions or feedback you'd like to give me, because this is my first time doing something like this, and I'd love to hear some constructive criticism and stuff. It's just, I really want to do something like this again. Yeah, just post it in the comments. Any questions about the farm? This might not have been the most detailed explanation. I'm sorry for that. If you have any questions about it, I would be happy to answer them. And yeah, thank you for watching again. Remember to leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.